Everyone, welcome to the Competition Archery Media Podcast. In today's episode, it's going to be, well, something special. Something with a guy who is on a run in archery, the likes of which we haven't seen in months, maybe even weeks. But let's welcome to the Competition Archery Media Podcast, Christopher Perkins. Hi, Christopher.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right.
You back home yet in Canada or what?
I am back home. Yeah, I'm in my 2-week jail time now.
Oh, is that right? I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I know it's been a big sacrifice for you, really, about being home and family and everything else, traveling and been mostly in the States shooting. And so far, the 2021 season for you has been absolutely stellar. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, obviously having last year off with the way everything went, just because of the whole pandemic and the whole COVID thing. I did have some time to kind of step away from the bow and take a little bit of a break, and then after NFAA announcing the Rumble and stuff like that, and things that were actually confirmed that were actually going to happen for the 2021 season. Obviously invested a lot of time getting ready and just kind of feel a little bit more prepared this year than obviously other years, having only having a 3 or 4 month break. So I think the break was really nice, being able to kind of just reset and then just regroup everything for the 2021 season. And so far it's been good, and hopefully we can kind of continue on that train track.
For people that are watching this, Christopher, that don't know what success you've had this year, tell us about it, especially what happened in the last weekend.
Yeah, so Reading is probably, I would say, it's one of those tournaments where, I think everybody wants a Reading title, an NFAA 3D National Championship for sure. This is actually my second one. I think back in 2012 was my last one. So it's only almost been 10 years. And I kind of said to myself going into this one, I wanted to have another win before a 10-year anniversary. And this was kind of my last kick at the can before that year rolled around. And yeah, no, it feels good. Then, the ASA season, so far it's been awesome for me. Win back in Foley, and then Texas the weekend before Reading, took second there. So far, that whole circuit has been kicking off extremely well for me. We'll be back in London in, I believe, 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks for the next ASA. So hopefully we can, like I said, hope we can kind of continue that.
Let's talk about Reading. First of all, congratulations, because I didn't say that on camera. Obviously, congratulations on the big win. But what's that tournament like for people that haven't experienced Reading before?
It's changed quite a bit, like I said, since my last win, obviously just with the fires that went through there a couple of years ago. They actually had to reroute a lot of the targets on just after the Bigfoot. So that side of things is quite a bit different, but the actual tournament itself, it's kind of a cross between a field shoot and a 3D shoot. Obviously the field, you have a dot to aim at, and then obviously the 3D just being the whole 3-dimensional targets. But it definitely tests your skills and your patience. And you have, shots from 3 yards all the way out to 101 yards. So it's a wide range of yardages, angles, and it kind of puts everything together in what we consider probably the ultimate archery experience.
I shoot a lot of field, and in the field that I shoot, I have gone back and forth between a peep setting for a compound bow, obviously. So sometimes in years past, I've set my peep at, say, 50 yards, even though with normal NFAA field, you shoot out to 80. Yeah. And you shoot 20 feet or something like that, right? Yeah. And then other years, I've set it at the 80-yard mark to make it more comfortable, and then kind of suffered at the closer distances. I'm curious, when you look at a shoot like Reading that has such extreme distances and angles, how do you approach it in terms of just that relationship between your peep and your scope? How do you do it?
So I kind of break it down on what we have more of. And in Reading, you have a 77, you have a 73, you have an 88, and you have a 101. There's nothing really after those numbers. Like you don't have an 81, you don't have a 79, like you don't have any of those. But you have a lot in the 42 to, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to say you have a lot in the 30-yard range to 60-yard range.
Okay.
So for me this year in Reading, and I think for previous years too, I'd have to kind of look back on my notes to see exactly what I did there. But for this year in particular, I set my peep height zeroed at 55 yards. So that kind of gives me a comfortable feel for all that middle stuff. And then, like you said, suffer a little bit on the, the 15s, the 8, the, the 11-yard stuff, the 3-yard and the 4-yard. Those two targets, you're not going to suffer really that much because your sight setting is going to be substantially lower. So I think my 4-yard is like 41 yards and my 3-yard was 61 or something like that. So those peep heights, the peep height and the scope, relationship there aren't going to be super crazy, other than when you get to like an 8-yarder where, my sight setting is going to be 15 or 16 yards. So you feel a little crammed there, and then when you get out to the, the longer stuff, like I said, you don't have that many to really panic too much on, say setting your peep height for like 70 or 75 yards.
What target did you end up struggling with at Reading?
Well, the one I dropped the most points on was the elk herd. That was our last day. Quite a bit more wind on our last day, so that target itself was a little bit of a struggle, just because you don't really know what it's doing. I mean, you look halfway down the range, the wind's going one way, and you look at the targets, and the wind's going the other way, and then you're standing back on the shooting line, and you don't really feel any wind. So it's just kind of a gamble. You step up there, you break a good first shot, hope it hits the dot, and if not, obviously make some corrections.
Well, cool, man. Congratulations on that. Let's jump back in time. Let's talk about your childhood, in particular, what sparked your love for shooting a bow and arrow?
Yeah, I mean, I got my first real compound, I guess you could say, when I was 11. Dad bought me that bow for my 11th birthday for hunting purposes. And that was really all I got into it for, was just a bow hunt here in Ontario. We have a 3-month bow hunting season. It starts from October 1st and ends December. And that was really it. I mean, Dad bow hunted. My mom did shoot a little bit. That was kind of something that they kind of did together. And then, like I said, just kind of picked it up, shot it quite a bit, and went to a local 3D tournament. Dad heard about a local 3D. We went. He actually watched. I competed in it. And a gentleman, which is a really good friend of ours now, walked up to my dad and basically told him, if he sticks with it, obviously I think one day he'll be really, really good at it. And at the time I was playing hockey, kind of no surprise.
Wait a second,
there.
You're Canadian playing hockey? Shocker.
Yeah, right. So like I said, it's a bit of no surprise there with the whole hockey scene. Yeah, hockey games are on Sundays. Archery tournaments are on Sundays. Dad kind of said, I don't really care which one you do. Can't do both. And so I chose to shoot. So we got pretty heavily invested into the 3D side of things. Was something that him and I did pretty much every weekend of the summer. And yeah, and just kind of evolved from there.
Christopher, there's a stark contrast in terms of like stick and ball sports that are reactionary, like hockey, versus what archery is, more like golf, where you have time to sabotage yourself, right? They have time to think and do those types of things. So, talk a little bit about the distinctions that you found as a, stick and ball athlete, youth stick and ball athlete, to archery, and the distinctions between those two, and how maybe, either one of the other have complemented your game in either sport, whatever else you played.
I mean, I was always competitive, and playing hockey, obviously, always wanted to go out there and play my best game, and obviously wanted to come out with a win with the team. But I think just the competitive nature on both ends, just for me in general, I think that's kind of what really pushed me when I got more and more invested into the archery side of things. Obviously wanting to strive to be the best I can.
Where does your competitive nature come from? Is that from your family, siblings, cousins, or is it just something you picked up on?
Well, my dad was a competitive sporting clays shooter,
Mm,
so that's probably where it come from. So
yeah.
he obviously wasn't, obviously on the level that I'm at with that, but he just did more local stuff than anything. He didn't get into too big of travel, into the States and whatnot, but he pretty much they shot everything within Canada. And, when my sister and I were born, obviously that kind of slowed down quite a bit. So I think the competitive nature probably came from him, obviously trying to or wanting to do the best you possibly can at something.
And what did childhood look like for you? Was it city, suburbs, out in a farm? Like, take me to the Arc. Have you been in the same place your whole life with where your folks live?
So where they live now, I've actually been there for maybe 21 years, which is the longest we've been actually in one particular house. Dad's a construction builder, so we moved around quite a bit in houses he would build and sell,
Mm.
and so this one actually is on the farm now. We live on 234 acres back in the country. And yeah, I mean, we've always lived in the country. I think might have been maybe a couple years in a little town called Athens, which is where I'm from. We lived there while he was finishing up one house, but not. I'm not much for the city living or the little
No.
town. So
Bit of an
if I
outdoorsy
can't,
kind of guy, huh?
that's right. If I can't step out and shoot my bow or shoot a rifle off the front porch, then we're too close to the neighbors.
Fair play to you. So obviously we know that you played a little hockey and archery, but what else was it when you were a kid that you liked? Was there other sports? Was there speed? Was there motorcycles? Like, what are the things that you also got into when you were a kid?
I think like dirt bikes and four wheelers and stuff, kind of something obviously little boys like to do.
Three
Kind of get
wheelers?
there. Yeah, I got a three wheeler. Yeah. Obviously just those little machines, get out there and play and get out there in the mud and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we really played any other sports. Might have been baseball there for a couple of years, but yeah, like I said, kind of once my 11th birthday rolled around, it was pretty much the full force archery all the time. So,
Well, now that you're an adult, what other things beyond archery do you spend your time and your money on?
well, I think people could probably figure that out pretty quick. Guns is a big thing. I'm kind of invested into long range shooting, some 22 shooting. If I'm home and there's some matches happening, I try and hit those up. Like I said, when I'm around and not doing the whole 2 week thing now, but yeah, so I like to go to the gun club and shoot with the guys, and I've got some really good buddies that live close to here that we do quite a bit of shooting, and they're pretty heavily invested into the gun stuff too. So kind of like I said, once I have a little bit of break from archery, I try and break away from the archery scene a little bit and just kind of, like I said, like I had said before, reset a little bit, and instead of it just being 24/7, 365 all archery all the time, I like to break it up. I think it helps in the long run without getting burnt out.
Let's talk about your obsession with fast cars, muscle cars
Yeah.
in particular. Or like you like things that go fast.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Uh, Owning a Dodge Challenger was always a dream car of mine. The Hellcat kind of come around, and well, it was released in 2015. That was kind of a car that I was like, you know what, I'd really like to have one of those. And yeah, just kind of a couple of years of searching and seeing if I can find one, and finally come across one. And yeah, so I've had it for a couple of years, and it'll move if you want it to move, but it'll get you in trouble too.
Yeah, I bet it will. Um, let's talk about the mental approach to archery in particular, because we've had conversations offline before about graduating through coaching systems and who is there anyone helping you now? So obviously the mechanics of archery are important. Getting the foundation, shooting the bow, but archery really becomes more of a thinking person's sport a lot of times, where you can outthink yourself. But how do you how do you continue to execute at the level that you're shooting at right now? Because it's not always smooth sailing. I mean, there are problems for everyone that come up all the time, but you seem to be able to address them immediately. So illuminate us on your mental approach to the sport a little.
Yeah, so obviously, you want to go out there and you want to do the best you can. And I think where people kind of get lost is they'll step up to a target and they don't really know what they want to do. And that really breaks the whole mental process down, I think, on that particular target. For me, during a shoot off or whatever, I'll write down what I want to do on all 5 targets and I'll never change my mind, regardless of the position standings or where I'm at. Obviously, if I'm in 5th place and I'm 30 points behind, my process is probably going to be much, much more aggressive than if I'm in 1st place by 2 points. But going out there and knowing what I have to do, for me, it's a straight line. I mean, I pick what I want to do, and that's what I stick to. I don't try and fumble ideas or try and guess what I want to do or what I think I should do. I already know what I should do. But as far as like mental coaching and stuff like that, I've never worked with anybody personally. I've never read any mental management books or anything like that. I've just always tried to put myself in that situation, kind of out of that comfort zone. And once you put yourself there time and time again, you kind of get a gauge for what works and what doesn't work, or what you specifically need to address to make it work better or have everything function a lot more smoothly in those high pressure situations. So for me, it's just, obviously there's a goal. Everybody goes out there, they want to win. And there's a handful of guys that are able to execute that, a few times a year, or put themselves in that situation where they can potentially win on a weekend.
Do you enjoy the pressure?
I do.
We don't have top archery tournaments every single weekend. I mean, you just kind of mentioned it. It's kind of a select few weekends a year, and you pick that just for tournaments alone, and now you have to filter that into your performance level. So is that, what's the excitement level for you with pressure? Because I know people that, they're not gamers, but you are a gamer. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think no matter what sport you chose, you were going to be at this level. So I'm just curious about your relationship with pressure and what you do to yourself before tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to get there first. Like I look at an ASA, you got 40 targets to shoot before you get to whatever you want to call it, shoot down, big dance, game, show, whatever. You have those 40 targets that you have to qualify to get to that position. So I look at that as, obviously I want to be there. I want to get there. And then when I do get to the shoot off, see, the ASAs for me, obviously a win is big. It's huge. But I've been on a much larger stage with World Archery and a World Championships than what the ASAs are. And that not taking away from the ASAs, because they're awesome. And I absolutely love the pressure and I love the format. But for me, I don't feel as much pressure as, say, maybe somebody else feels on that stage, just because of the larger stages and stuff that I have been on. But for me, I feed off the energy from the people, getting up there and shooting a 14 on, a 6th arrow or whatever, or people, I think it was Foley a couple of years ago. I didn't even have to fire the 6th arrow and people were shouting at me to shoot the 14. So, I mean, obviously giving the people a little bit of a show too, ramps them up too. And it also ramps me up. So,
when I see you at shoots, you tend to spend quite a bit of time in and around an area where there are plenty of other shooters, plenty of fans, that type of thing. How do you find the balance between getting your mind right and making yourself available as an athlete, because you are a person, as all pro archers are, or athletes in general, representing a brand. And this day and age, it is about accessibility. It's about communicating with people, whether it's social media, whether it's face to face. So, how do you find your balance?
I mean, I always try to, like I've said to people, I always try to answer as many questions that I get either, through Messenger or Instagram or whatnot. I answer every single message that I get. And I try to answer it to the best of my abilities and help them out the best I can. Because I was once in that position too, where I was asking, the top guys, well, what do you do here? What do you do there to make it better? For me, it doesn't really take me much to kind of reboot or reset. Obviously dealing with the people that then say, I've got to shoot off in a half hour. It doesn't take me long to kind of just reset my mind and focus on a direction that I need to focus on when it comes to shoot down and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I always try and give them, as much time as possible and help them out the best I can.
Well, let's boil down one basic question that I think is really on the tips of everyone's tongue. Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about your name.
My
I call
name?
you Christopher. You've requested
Oh, yeah.
Christopher. What is the deal with your name? And what do you like being called and why?
To me, it doesn't really matter.
To you, it doesn't matter.
But to my mom, it does. So when people ask me what do you want to be called, it doesn't bother me any. But my full name obviously is Christopher, so that's the way everything is. So
that's what I try to do when, obviously we're on TV and we're talking. I might call you
Yeah.
Chris in the background. Just don't tell your mother. That's
right.
That's
right.
really the important thing there for sure.
Pretty much.
All right, look, this is a difficult question, but dive deep into that little brain of yours and really dig this one out. Beyond the winning part of archery, if you look at archery competition as general, from preparation to actually being there, travel, whatever it is, beyond the actual part of winning or standing on the podium or whatever, what is it that you enjoy most about archery?
Just the sport in its whole. For me, I just like shooting a bow. I mean, I didn't pick it up to head in this direction. Like I said, I picked it up to bow hunt, and I picked it up to spend time with my dad and, obviously hunt together. If I wasn't in this situation, I wasn't shooting tournaments, I'd still be shooting a bow for hunting purposes. And like I said, that's why I started. It's just something that I, thoroughly enjoy doing. And it's kind of a relaxing, I guess, you just kind of pick the bow up and shoot a little bit. It can be frustrating. Yeah. I think everybody can vouch for that when it comes down to it. It's a sport that no one will ever perfect. And I think there's been a few pros that have said that before, but yeah, I mean, if I didn't have what I have in the sport, I would, I'd still be shooting, just because I do love it that much. So,
what haven't you accomplished in archery yet?
That
you want to, obviously, yeah.
There's indoor nationals, 5 spots. There's that one for sure. I have not won that one yet. As far as big ones, I believe that's it.
So, I mean, a lot of people may not know all of your history in terms of archery. So just paint us a broad brush about all the different disciplines that you have shot in archery over the course of your career. You mentioned World Archery. So just kind of give us the rundown there of the things that you have participated in. And then when you're done with that, I'm curious to find out of the disciplines, 3D, field, FIDA or whatever it is, World Art. What's your favorite? Indoor, 5 spot, 3 spot. So first of all, give us the paintbrush.
Yeah, so I've shot World FIDA stuff, 50 meter. I don't think I was shooting any World Archery stuff when it was. Oh, yes, I was. Sorry. So back in my junior days when I shot Junior Worlds, I was shooting 1440 rounds with World Archery. 50 meter stuff with World Archery. I've shot World Cups. I've shot 4 or 5 World Championships. Started in IBO, so started in the 3D side of things. Transitioned to indoor target, kind of let the 3D scene kind of go until I was basically reintroduced to 3D or ASA in 2014. And yeah, I then just been like full force 3D. Obviously, the indoor target scene, NFAA stuff since 15 or 16. So I've pretty much done it all. Few field courses here and there. I have shot one pro series before, and yeah, I mean, I like it all. I mean, I don't prefer one over the other. I like indoor. I like 3D. I like FIDA somewhat now with with uh, with being mainly 3D for the last 4 or 5 years. But
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I would go back and shoot some 50-meter stuff. I would like to, I would like to get back on Team Canada to shoot a world championship, but that's a bit of a long haul there for that process. But just with the way my schedule is in the States, it makes it difficult to get re-ranked to be able to shoot a world championship for my country. But yeah.
Well, speaking of Canada, how is it being a Canadian and shooting so many tournaments in the US? Does it ever really come up? I mean, obviously there's a couple, words that we know accent wise that are said a little different, which,
Yeah.
scream Canadian. But I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part, how has, the US embraced you as a shooter?
I mean, all my companies that I shoot for have supported me pretty much from day one. Ever since signing with them. There's been a lot of companies that I've been shooting for a super long time, and their support has been second to none. It's been absolutely great. Being a Canadian, yeah, there's been some challenges. I've had to work hard for what I have, and it's just a lot of time and a lot of arrows and a lot of money spent to get to where I'm at. But all in all, the companies have been great. I haven't had really any issues, spending time down there and shooting the events and getting back and forth. Obviously, the last couple of years with the whole pandemic and stuff like that, things have changed quite a bit as far as travel. But all in all, it's been fine.
How old are you now, Christopher?
I'm 29 now.
So what does the future hold for you? Where do you see yourself down the line, either with or without archery?
I mean, obviously, I'd still like to be competitive 10 years from now, and I hope I still am. And I haven't really, honestly, I haven't really thought too much outside of the whole archery scene, um, and hope I don't have to think about that for a long time. But obviously, it's just like anything. You can only be competitive for so long, and then things just aren't the same. You get older, and everything kind of starts to go downhill, so they say. But yeah,
Easy.
I mean, I just try and stay focused and in the moment and ride this for as long as I possibly can.
Okay, I got you on that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fitness, okay? Because a couple of years ago, you made a commitment to yourself, and obviously, we look at you now, and you're all kinds of skinny and handsome as hell, especially from a distance. I mean, the lights go
There
out.
you
You're one of
go.
the best looking guys in the room. But
Okay. Yeah.
the point is, though, let's talk about fitness and archery, and how, you've transformed your view of that over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So it was probably, ooh, 4 or 5 years ago now, I think,
Hmm.
when I started. Yeah, I mean, if you look at a video from 2012 Reading and you look at a video from this past weekend, it's very, very different. Um, and it just kind of got to the point where, I'd shoot a 20 target course in 3Ds and be completely, exhausted and run out. And, it was just time for a change, and, just stuck to a plan and executed that plan, relatively well, for the first few years, and got to the point where I'm at now, where working with a personal trainer and trying to eat as best as I can while on the road, which is quite a challenge,
Oof.
especially when everything over there is fried. You guys seem to like.
Yeah,
You
some
guys
of
seem
the
to like.
places we go to do not lend themselves to healthy eating. There is no
No,
question.
no, that's for sure. But yeah, and obviously that big change for me that resulted in quite a bit of changes when it comes to the bow. Draw length changes, stabilizer setups, yeah, you name it. It was pretty much like a whole relearning, on how to shoot
Hmm.
essentially. And so that took me some time. It took me probably 6 months to really get back on track. With how I know I can shoot and perform. So it was almost a step forward on one thing and a few steps backwards on another.
Interesting. Okay. But this commitment now looks like what? Because I think some people have the perception like it's all or nothing, right? Like, do you ever have fried food? Do you ever snack on some things that you shouldn't eat? Is it about moderation? Like, what is your approach?
I mean, just obviously you got to control what you're putting in your mouth. I mean, but it's not like everybody, kind of associates the word diet with like super strict rules and you can't
Hmm.
do this and you can't do that. And I think that's where people really get discouraged. Um, you just gotta kind of play it smart and look at the menu and kind of pick and choose what you actually want to eat. And sometimes instead of having a pop, have a water or whatever. But for me, being on the road, I try and eat relatively healthy. Like I said, it's not always easy, especially if you're in a car and you're driving across to however many states, and all you've got are fast food options and gas stations or airports. But for me, I just try and balance the best I can. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% perfect with traveling, but don't make it a habit of doing it for weeks at a time. Try and if you kind of lose it one day and you have an ice cream or whatever, then get back on track the next day. It's just like training. If you're wanting to get to wherever you want to get in archery and you miss a day of practice, then don't stress about it. Get back on the horse the following day. So
2021. What's the goal? What will be a successful 2021 when you look back at it?
uh, I'd like to podium, if not try and win the rest of the ASAs.
Okay.
I'd like to at least wrap up shooter of the year for that one. I've been close a lot of times. We've discussed it a lot. And I've just never seemed to capture an ASA shooter of the year title. I have an NFAA one, but the ASA one still eludes me. And hopefully after this year, after 2021, that's no longer. But that would personally that would tie it all together if I got that.
Hmm. I don't normally ask about equipment and things like that in these podcasts, but I am curious. Has there been any big changes to, what you shoot in terms of equipment over the last couple of years that you've had to make an adjustment to?
Uh, Not really. I mean, once I find something that works, I
Hmm.
generally stick with it, and I don't venture too far from that. The bows that I'm shooting this year are both TRX 40s. I shot them last year for the 4 or 5 events that we shot, or that I shot personally. So basically, just pick those bows up and have been rolling with them this season. I don't foresee really a change of anything in the future. I feel like the setups I have now are working exceptionally well. I'm clicking with them, and yeah, so I'll probably just roll the rest of the season with them and see what happens.
What are we going to do about you versus me in 50 meter?
Ooh, I don't know when and where.
Yeah, that we got to figure that out. But the when
You
and
want me? You
where,
want me?
that's the
Yeah,
when and where is the logistical part of it.
that's right.
It's how many points are you going to spot me, and what does the winner get? That's the question.
Well, here, what we can do is I'll shoot 23s or 25s at 50 meters, and then you can shoot skinnies. And then you just hope it's a really windy day.
That is so demoralizing. Did you just do that
Yeah.
to me? All
Yeah.
right. we gotta figure that out just to see, But look, speaking of 50-meter, because we know that there's 40 arrows over 2 days in 3D, and the arrow volume that you shot, NFAA marked 3D and stuff. What is it about 50-meter that people don't realize that can help you with your shooting if you are shooting 72 arrow rounds at a time or 1440s like you're saying?
I mean, obviously it's going to build stamina. I mean, if you look at FITA, there's really not much it's going to help you with other than maybe some target panic real fast if it gets real windy. But
you just dump the trigger all the time. What are you talking about? Like, it's a big deal.
I mean, hey, if it works, it works. But I think the best game for really, picking the best archers, for me personally, is indoor 20 yards.
Mm.
If you want to look at just one discipline, it has to be indoor 20. I mean, the 50-meter game, I think, is going to get to the point of what it's like to shoot on an indoor 20-yard round, with the way the scores are going, and the scores that people are posting, 717, 718, 715, like stuff like that. I think the 50-meter game is going to get to the point where you can't miss. But as far as really building the best archer and the most consistent archer, has to be indoor 20.
Yeah. I totally get where you're coming from on that one, no doubt. If you had a magic wand and you could change the 50-meter game, if it gets to that point, which we're right around the corner, like you're saying, I'm just curious as what you think you would do. Would you extend the distance? Would you increase or decrease the 10 ring? Like, would you change the 50-meter game to a game that you'd be interested in shooting again?
I think the only way to really change it would be obviously just to make the target smaller. Because I mean, even if you look back at the older days where we shot 70-meter stuff, 70 meters was exactly the same. If you went and you shot a match and you shot a 118, the person beside you is probably going to shoot a 119 or a 120. It's just that's the way it eventually gets, is just people get so good at it that it's just to a point where you can't miss.
In 3D, would you ever want to or see the 14 in play during the 40 arrow qualification rounds? Think that would be entertaining?
It was years and years ago, from my understanding, and they just got rid of it because obviously it wasn't a replaceable section of the target, so they were shooting through targets too quickly. But
oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Quite honestly, no.
You like it? You like the game just the way it is?
I like the game the way it is. If anything, if they wanted to change it, and I don't think it will ever happen, but would be to probably step us back to 55 or 60 yards.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't think bringing the 14s into play is the smart move for that game.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're really talking about here. I was just curious to get your take on it because, a lot of people have a lot of takes on it. Me personally, I really like the way ASA does the whole thing, from the pro stuff to the amateur stuff. I mean, there's a couple things I'd like to see changed ultimately, but that's more on the, I would say, on the exposure or sales side of things than it is on the shooting side, Right. And I just think it's a really put together, well put together program. For anybody out there, Christopher, who is watching this podcast, kind of lift the veil off the mystery about coming ASA 3D shooting or 3D shooting in general for anybody who might have some questions or anxiety about coming. Like, why should you? How cool is it? Relaxed is it? Like, what are the things that are attractive to you that draw people to shoot 3D archery and ASA specifically?
I mean, there's just so many. There's so many categories that you can shoot. I mean, you don't have to have the fancy equipment. You don't have to have the scopes, the long stabilizers. You don't have to have any of that. You go and you can, you want to bring your bow hunting setup. You bring your bow hunting setup and enter in that particular class. It addresses everybody. you don't know, if you don't want to judge, you don't have to judge. You can shoot the known side. If you don't want to shoot the known side, you shoot the unknown side. It's just there's a class for every single archer in the world. If you want to shoot an awesome 3D event or whatever you want to do there, I mean, you can shoot recurve or bare bow if you want. They've got a class for you. So yeah, it literally addresses everybody in the archery world and the archery community to come out, enjoy it, and just have fun with it. It's 40 targets. There's lots of people. There's obviously all the vendors and stuff like that. So it's just a way to really engage with pretty much everybody and everything associated with archery.
Well, I hope your quarantining goes relatively quick. And
yeah,
I mean, you're basically going to come out of quarantine and go right back at it to London, Kentucky, right?
Yeah. So I'll be obviously the whole 2-week thing here. And then I think I'll have like a week and a half, or probably I think maybe a full 2 weeks before I leave again. Leave on, well, I think it's the 4th, 5th weekend, so I'll be leaving on the 3rd.
You driving down or you flying down?
Have to fly. I can't drive. I can drive back across, but I can't drive to the States.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I saw your post on Instagram about reason 500 million why I like to drive.
Yeah. Delta, they're really crushing it.
Dude, I'm with you, buddy. I am 28,000 miles into flights so far in 2021, and things have gotten crazy. People are back at it, no doubt. Airports are packed, planes are packed. It's nuts. But
it seems like every single time, something happens, and it's not even before the plane takes off. It's like while we're in the plane, we've been flying for 3.5 hours, and the pilot comes on and goes, "Well, I don't think we're going to be able to land where we're going." It's like, what?
Yeah.
So we circled. I think we circled over Atlanta for 40 minutes, and then we went on to Nashville, Tennessee, and we no more than landed, and he's just like, oh, "Okay, well, we got to go ahead to go back."
Oh wow! Was that Monday?
Yeah.
Was that those the rainstorms that were going on?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the big thunderstorm ripped through
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Hey, I rode a motorcycle from there all the way to North Carolina, and it rained the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6+ hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled up on my phone, looked at the radar, and I was like, well, there's no way in 15 minutes that's going to clear. But anyways, we flew through it, and it was an interesting ride. But
I would have just walked up there and just slid the guy a 20 and just say, dude, Atlanta, why not just fly into my airport in Canada and just drop me off, bro?
Right.
I'm sure 20.
We're just gonna make an emergency stop for one Canadian, let him off. Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher, thanks so much for joining us on this podcast. We appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the way. And of course, I will be seeing you in London, Kentucky. Fingers crossed for dry weather getting there and dry weather during that weekend, because that one gets a little sloppy at times.
It can, yeah. It can be nasty with those dark tunnels. But hey, I appreciate you guys and Cam Media, and looking forward to seeing you guys.